Henry Long Ranger. Besides growing up watching The Rifleman, why am I reviewing a lever action rifle? Because lever action is the truly Ambi friendly manual action. I'll answer why Ambi later. First, let's have a look at this beautiful 5.56 Henry Long Ranger. The trigger. After a lot of dry firing and 300 rounds of live fire, the Henry trigger is the equal of the excellent triggers in both the RDB and my Geisley equipped AR. The Henry has no conventional safety, but it does feature a trigger transfer bar safety. Basically, if the hammer were to be dislodged and fall from full cock, it is still blocked from striking the firing pin by the transfer bar safety. The trigger must be pulled for the hammer to have a clear path to the firing pin. You can also lower the hammer with reduced risk by taking some pressure off the hammer with your thumb, press the trigger, begin to lower the hammer, and just as the hammer clears the sear, release the trigger. That way, if the hammer slips from your thumb, the transfer bar will prevent firing. Sights and optics. My Long Ranger is equipped with iron sights and did not include a pick rail, so I mounted a Tally Manufacturing Picatinny rail. The Tally rail has 14 slots compared to the 12 on the EGW offering. I think those 2 extra slots are critical for getting a rifle scope mounted far enough forward. If you're running a red dot or a prism scope, the EGW rail is adequate. The barrel-mounted rear sight provides only 15 inches of sight radius, but it is elevation and windage adjustable. The rear sight also folds flat, kind of the cowboy version of backup iron sight. Within my scope's low magnification, I can use the front sight to kind of refine eye alignment. Made in America or not made at all, so I mounted a loopholed rifle scope instead of the prism scope I initially set aside for the Long Ranger, until I spotted its country of origin. Not worthy of the American rifle. When I first mounted the loopholed rifle scope, I used Monstrum low rings, the same rings I used when running the Leupold optic on the Hellion. I used the cheap PRC rings because they were very flush, no big mounting nuts on the side. To get proper eye relief on the Henry, the forward ring was dangling one of its 2 slots off the pick rail. Ideally, that pick rail would have 1 more slot. It worked okay, but that coupled with the blasphemy of putting PRC hardware atop a made in America or not made at all rifle, I ended up swapping these rings out for the slightly thinner single slot American-made Leupold aluminum rings. Much better quality and nothing dangling off the front of the pick rail. But I despise those big snaggy nuts. At least, unlike the bullpups, the nuts won't interfere with running the rifle, but they sure do create drag coming out of a rifle scabbard, and it just ruins the sleek lines on the left side of the Henry. Perhaps I'll drill out the staking, cut back the stud, and thread up some low-profile flange nuts like I did on my ACOG. The Leupold rings have a saddle height of 3/400ths of an inch compared to 3/10ths of an inch high Monstrums. You wouldn't think 4/100ths of an inch would be noticeable, but I can see that the eyepiece is a tiny bit higher above the pick rail. Perfection will be American made, flush hardware, 3/10ths of an inch saddle height, aluminum rings. Eye relief positioning of the rifle scope solved, I proceeded to eye alignment. Even with the small, lightweight Leupold mounted as low as possible, I was faced with a floating chin wheel. I started with a 3/16 inch cheekies to raise the comb a bit for proper eye alignment, but it wasn't enough. So I switched to a Kydex cheek riser manufactured by Matthews Fabrication. This cheek riser requires drilling mounting holes in the stock. I almost chickened out. After checking the Henry Pride store to see how much a replacement buttstock would cost, I ginned up some courage to proceed. The cheek riser made for perfect sight alignment with a low-mounted Leupold VX Freedom. The Matthews Fabrication cheek riser can be adjusted higher to accommodate higher magnification optics, something I might try in the future. I'd like to see Henry offer a walnut stock with integrated cheek riser for the utmost in elegance. The standard mounting nuts for the Matthews Fabrication cheek riser are knobs that would interfere with dynamic ambidextrous operation of the rifle. Fortunately, Matthews Fabrication offers Ambi-friendly flush Allen head screws. Sling studs are factory installed in the lovely walnut stock, saving me the symmetrical struggle that haunted me on the Henry rimfires. The sling studs did rotate a bit, so I epoxied them in place. Sling studs, sling swivels, and a canvas GI sling not only makes for a great shooter's aid, but also for carry, African or USGI styles of carry. The setup of the cheek riser, canvas sling, and loopholed LPVO was refined with lots of dry firing. I used a laser training cartridge to establish initial zero and for dry fire practice. Pleased with the setup, I headed to the range for 2 AQTs, one shooting 62 grain and the other 75 grain. I started with stage 4 of the AQT, slow fire prone. With 62 grain, I scored a 98, my highest result ever, until I shot the 75 grain for a perfect 100. Wow, the Long Ranger really has my attention now. Stage 1, offhand, I scored a 49 out of 50 with both cartridges. Stage 2, sitting, I do squatting, and Stage 3, rapid fire prone, all involving mag changes and greater time constraints. And since I only have one mag, the last 5 rounds were hand-fed, my scores were not so good. I think if I had 2 mags, scoring 45 out of 50 on stages 2 and 3 would be within easy range. An AQT score of 240 would be my best ever and knocking on the door of a distinguished Rifleman patch, a perfect 250 AQT score. Although it'll take some practice doing mag changes, remembering to close the action, to drop the magazine so it clears the lever, and getting better at getting that mag release button to actuate. One thing I've noted is that when connecting my loop sling to the handguard, when I set the buttstock on the ground, the weight of the bolt unlocks the action and the bolt fully retracts. Pulls the cartridge right out of the chamber. Lower hammer to prevent this from happening? Maybe a tighter lever catch is needed. Maybe this is a result of Century Tough Glide making the action so slick. The anodized black aluminum receiver is much nicer and more durable than the painted covers on the rimfire rifles. Steel inserts in the aluminum receiver for scope mounts are a very nice touch, but an option for an integral Picatinny rail would be better. Hammer mainspring noise like a screen door opening was tempting me to open the receiver up for a cleaning and application of Century Tough Glide. But that noise has faded. Either it broke in with lots of dry firing, or my efforts to get some Tough Glide into the action were successful. The Long Ranger chassis, receiver, bolt, magazine, barrel is more efficient with larger calibers like .308 and 6.5 Creedmoor. Same bolt across all calibers, just a different bolt head. Same barrel blank, just a different bore. Same mag body with a spacer for 5.56. Same furniture, receiver, lever, trigger, scope, mount, etc. Imagine if you wanted an AR-15 and you went to BFG Manufacturing, who makes AR-10s, from which they build your AR-15. Same outside barrel diameter, but smaller bore, so the barrel weighs a half pound more than your 7.62 AR-10 barrel. Same bolt carrier group, but with a 5.56 bolt head. Same receiver, same AR-10 magazine with a spacer in the leading edge. Such an AR-15 would weigh the same or more than an AR-10. It would be thicker, it would be an inefficient AR-15. It would be a bit disappointing. When reviewing the Tech MDR, I chose the 7.62 version for this reason. Reviewing the specs of the Henry Long Ranger rifles, I knew this was the case intellectually, but it wasn't until I unboxed the portly 5.56 Long Ranger did I truly understand. I've concluded that the Long Ranger should be chambered in .308 or 6.5. Even though I live where there are plenty of opportunities to shoot long range and to hunt big game animals, I really wasn't interested in a .30 caliber rifle. People who live where ARs are verboten generally don't have the extensive long-range shooting areas or the larger game animals like elk or grizzly. One advantage of being based upon a larger cartridge is that you have more room to access the bolt and chamber to clear a malfunction. Disadvantage is that chucking a 5.56 cartridge into the gaping maw finds that it rarely aligns properly to feed into the chamber like a 308 or 6.5 would. This adversely affected my sitting and rapid fire scores on the AQT. Also, a long ranger optimized for 5.56 could easily accommodate extended mags. For example, a 10-round mag without the spacer shifted forward in the mag well easily clears the lever. Lever guns are Ambi friendly. Why Ambi? For optimal use of concealment for hunting to provide food for your family. For optimal use of cover in case you must protect your family or preserve your freedom. Protect and provide champions Henry marketing material. I'd like to add preserve. Quickly, how does it compare to the popular AR-15 or the compact RDB or the bolt-action Mossberg MVP Predator? Weight. The Long Ranger with Leupold weighs 8.46 pounds. Illuminated or higher magnification optics will quickly push it over 9 pounds. The AR with ACOG, 7.34 pounds. RDB with Vortex 5X Spitfire, 8.58 pounds. MVP with Weaver V3, 7.42 pounds. About the same weight as the RDB, but a pound heavier than the AR-15 and MVP, and it's noticeable. Barrel length. The AR with its 16-inch barrel, but with a flash hider, is basically a barrel length of 18 inches overall. The Long Ranger features a 20-inch barrel, as does the RDB and MVP Predator. The advantages of a longer barrel are added velocity and reduced muzzle flash. I generally prefer 4 to 5 inches of added barrel length over a shorter, flashier barrel with a 2-inch flash hider. Overall length, the Long Ranger is 40 1/2 inches. The AR stock, fully extended, is 35 3/4 inches. The MVP is 38 1/2 inches and the RDB is 29.5 inches. The RDB with the same barrel length is 11 inches shorter than the Long Ranger. Discounting those protruding nuts in the scope rings, the Henry is about a 1/2 inch narrower than the AR and RDB, so less snaggy. Another thing is that the AR is like gun Legos, and everyone fully disassembles and cleans and modifies their rifle. Long Ranger, don't take it apart, says the manual. But Ranger point precision is kind of altering that perception. Magazines, rounds per ounce is much better with the AR. Magazines cost, as in dollars per round, is much better with the AR. Currently spare mags are out of stock at Henry's store, so the mags are selling for close to $50, a $13 premium over MSRP. AR mags are affordable and everywhere, and the cost per round is far less. A $50 5-round Long Ranger magazine means it's $10 a round. An AR mag costs about 60 cents a round. So why would you choose the Long Ranger over an AR? Well, are ARs illegal in your penal colony of a state? The Long Ranger is less scary looking to the R selected. It is beautiful and very satisfying to operate. Maybe you grew up watching the Rifleman. Fastest manual action, Ambi, and perfectly mirrored. Low drag in the saddle scabbard, and easy travel across the US and even Canada. Potential for exceptional bolt-action-like accuracy. Why AR? Parts are everywhere. Easy to customize. Disassembly is encouraged. Roomy and integral pick rail. Mount lights, rate of fire, magazine capacity. Mags are much cheaper and more efficient. And my favorite is the Mantis BlackbeardX training aid for the AR-15. Why the RDB? You competed in paintball. You're fully Ambi, and you want the ballistic advantage of a 20-inch barrel, but you want 3/4 maneuverability. Why the action Mossberg MVP Predator? ARs are illegal in your tyranny. Less scary looking to the R selected, not interested in Ambi, or willing to tolerate less efficient Ambi operation. Very simple action. AR magazine fed, half the price of the Henry AR-15 or RDB. I'll be doing a manual action Ambi AQT shootout between the Henry and Mossberg rifles in a future video. Henry Long Ranger, a very cool American rifle that delivers exceptional field accuracy when properly set up. Much more to come on this rifle. In the meantime, see AmbGun's Long Ranger page, link in the description.